Welcome to the Scam Economy with your host, Matt Bender.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
That's right. Welcome to Scam Economy. And on this episode of the show, we're going a little bit bananas. No. We are not talking about Caesar and Cornelius and Dr. Zira, as much as I wish we were. No. This episode is about the inferior chimps, the Bored Ape Yacht Club. These cartoon apes are being pushed in front of you everywhere. Why are celebrities like Paris Hilton and Jimmy Fallon promoting this stuff on The Tonight Show? Why are talent agents and music industry bigwigs signing up these apes as if they're real people? What's going on with these bored apes trying to get into the video game industry? Are they coming after Donkey Kong? They better not touch a single hair on my Diddy. All that and much, much more as we dive into a barrel of bananas on this episode. But first, folks, I don't have NFTs to push. I'm not trying to make you buy any gorillas or pictures of gorillas or really a token connected to a link of a picture cartoon of a gorilla. No. I am just trying to create this great content for all of you. And to do that, I'm asking for your support. You can support this show by going to patreon.com/mattbinder and becoming a subscriber. By subscribing to the show, you support me in everything I do, whether it's putting together another great episode of Scam Economy for you, whether it's putting together a episode of my other podcast, Doomed, for you all. Really, you help support and make happen pretty much every piece of content I put out there on the internet, podcast, video, all of it is because of my wonderful patron subscribers. So once again, patreon.com/mattbinder. If you can do so, subscribe to the show via podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Leave a review if you can. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll give you more ways to find where you can follow this show online, other than, of course, the website, scameconomy.com, at the end of this episode. But really now, we should get to the monkey pictures. And joining me now is independent reporter writing about NFTs and cryptocurrency, Amy Castor. Amy, thank you so much for joining me on Scam Economy today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm really glad to be talking with you because, I've been looking into, various, articles and reports about NFTs. And I came across, you've been writing specifically about one particular NFT project, I think more so than anybody, at least from what I've seen. And that is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And this is the biggest NFT project easily. I think when people hear the word NFTs and their first question isn't what the hell is an NFT, and they actually know what an NFT is, the first type of project or visual that comes to their mind is probably Bored Ape Yacht Club. Maybe the punks, but probably Bored Ape Yacht Club actually.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, it's Yuga Labs, and now they own the IP for the punks too, so they've sort of cornered the market on high-value collectible NFTs.
Right. So, I feel like this show is only about 8 episodes in now. And so people might be tuning in for the first time, not realizing, what is an NFT? So I thought, while I have you and you're such an expert in the field, how would you define an NFT?
So an NFT is a non-fungible token, and basically it's a way to track assets on the blockchain, right?
Right.
And fungible tokens are tokens that are, say, interchangeable, like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. It's not about whether you own a Bitcoin or not. It's about how many Bitcoins you have, and a fungible token is something that's unique. It's a one-off token. And for NFTs, they're basically used to represent art. So what you have is you can't actually have the art on the blockchain. You have essentially a pointer to something that's on a server elsewhere on the internet.
Right.
Right. And if that thing gets moved, then your NFT points to nothing. That's
right.
one of the downfalls.
Right. And it seems like the art world, and I've seen you've actually written for a number of art outlets, like specifically, outlets that deal with art news and fine arts. Do you have a background in art?
No.
No, I just, because
No.
you seem like you really knew that specific, because that is what like NFTs sort of seem to be overtaking or corrupting, I would like to say, actually, the art world.
I think if you look at the actual art that NFTs represent, in most cases, it's pretty bad. It's not really it's not really blue chip art.
Right, right. But the thing is, like, I feel like, especially with like, I guess, like street art style, you're seeing a lot of these artists sort of uh, have an interest in NFTs now, in terms of like, oh, I guess this is a way to make a buck. Like I've seen photographers who've started to put their photos on the blockchain to sell NFTs. I mean, Shepard Fairey, the Obama Hope poster guy, the Obey Giant, he's making NFTs. It does seem like various different sectors in the art community seem to be interested in NFTs. I don't know if they quite understand everything about it. I would doubt that some of maybe some of them probably do, but a lot of them probably don't.
There's not, Matt, there's not a lot to understand, and I think that's part of the grift. Is the cryptocurrency space has always had this issue of how do we bring actual real money into the space, because real money, or money that looks like real money, if you're thinking about some of these stable coins out there, is what makes the number go up. And in crypto, it's always about number go up. And NFTs were essentially another grift, another way to bring fresh cash into the crypto ecosystem. And what the crypto promoters came up with was this idea, and it wasn't new. There's nothing about NFTs that is new at all. It's just another scheme to rope real money into the system. And what happened is it had mass appeal. I mean, the story behind NFTs is, hey, you can put your art on the blockchain. You as an artist, this is a way you can safeguard your work. This is a way you can make royalties by selling future work. And this is how we can track the original art. And look, this is really going to help you. So go out there, buy some Ethereum, and mint yourself an NFT and put it up on, OpenSea or one of the NFT marketplaces. And, you can be like Beeple and make, just become rich overnight. So that was kind of the flim flam behind it, Right. But there's nothing about NFTs that's new. It's really about bringing money into the system, and it's like the latest grift in the crypto space. And I think that's all it is. If you look at really what an NFT is, it's just a pointer on a blockchain. There's no way to put any of these assets that NFTs point to on the blockchain itself. Even if you look at CryptoPunks, which is one of the really popular high-value NFTs, if you look at what's actually in the NFT, it's not even a pointer to the punk that you own. It's just this compilation of all.
Right.
I can't say it without laughing. It's this compilation of all the punks, and all the punk NFTs point to that.
Right. And I gotta say, as someone with a background who came up playing in punk bands and listening to punk rock, it is so annoying now that whenever I like do a Google search or something for something that relates to punk, and I'm looking for a band from back in the day, and I have to use the word punk, and a CryptoPunk search query comes up. It's like, no, that's not supposed to be here. I'm not looking for that. You're polluting my stream here. I'm not looking for the CryptoPunks. Now, would you would you say that would you agree that the Bored Ape Yacht Club sort of came out of nowhere and sort of took over from the CryptoPunks, who were probably, I mean, they came in much earlier, before NFTs blew up, and then it feels like last year out of nowhere, and that's what makes me really wonder. Like, listen, there's
Matt, they didn't come out of nowhere. They came at the right time.
There you go.
And they came at a time when NFTs were really, really, really getting a lot of attention. And NFTs started to get a lot of attention in March 2020. I mean, was it 2021? Now I'm getting confused.
Oh, you're talking about the
when
Beeple
when the
sale?
Beeple sold.
That was 2021,
Yeah.
right? Pandemic makes you feel
2021.
like
It's
any
almost
year.
like it's hard to believe it was only a year ago, right?
Right.
So 2021 is when it started getting all this attention. When all of a sudden, March 11th, whatever it was, when this Beeple NFT, this virtually unknown artist, he'd only ever sold things for his prints for like $100. He essentially sold his entire sketchbook, which was like this compilation, an NFT linked to that through Christie's, which is a big auction house. So people thought, well, if Christie's is selling this, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere, and he can be the third most valuable living artist, and he's rich overnight, then there must be something to this,
Right.
So it was like this, and what people didn't understand, that the Metacove and the guy, that's the name he goes by, he'd been pumping up the value of Beeple NFTs since October 2020, earlier that year. So, and he was bidding against Justin's son. So when that happened and all that money, it was like this huge PR thing. And all of a sudden, it was in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, and everybody was talking about it. So people thought there must be something to this NFT stuff. So that's about the time, shortly after that Bored Apes launched, and they kind of were looking at CryptoPunks, which were a collectible NFT. So there was like 10,000 CryptoPunks, and punks. The price is based on what they go for, is based on how rare the different attributes are, right?
Right.
So that was kind of the idea, and they started selling for a lot of money in early 2021. So Bored Apes saw an opportunity. I mean, the Yuga Labs is the company behind Bored Apes. The avatars for the CryptoPunks are really kind of very simplistic. They look like they'd come from a 1980s computer game, right? And the founders of the Bored Apes Yacht Club, Yuga Labs, they were clever enough to think, well, maybe we can have something that's a little bit more cartoonish, some art that's a little bit more appealing to the masses. So they came up with Bored Apes, but the concept was the same. You have all these different attributes, and some were more rare than others. And so they minted, they sold all these Bored Ape NFTs at a reasonable price at the time, because punks had gone up in price so much that opportunity had come and gone. When the most of the people that are buying NFTs, I mean, a lot of them that bought into punks came from Top Shop. Yeah.
Right.
And they're traders, they're crypto bros, they're traders, and they're looking for an opportunity to get in early on a project. And that's sort of how many of them came over to Bored Apes, right?
Right.
They got in early, and it's the people that get in early that sort of have any opportunity of making any money off it. So your question was, what did Bored Apes do right, or were they came in at the right time?
But at the
with some interesting artwork.
But at the same time, though, there were other NFT projects. Obviously, it wasn't as awash with all these different, it wasn't overdone at that point quite yet. But there were other NFT art out there, and it didn't take off like Bored Apes. It makes me feel like was there some sort of marketing push behind it that they paid money for that they didn't tell anybody?
They offered to give the IP of the work to the NFT holders, and for some reason that appealed to people. They felt like maybe they could do something with branding or create derivative products that made a lot of money. Right. I mean, I don't know how much you can do with all that.
Right, because wouldn't they still? I mean, yeah, you can do all that stuff, but don't they still have like a I don't know, a claim over the broader like Bored Ape Yacht Club name? Like, what can you possibly do with just this ape from an IP that you
You can
don't?
make a T-shirt. You can sell,
Right, but like,
marijuana and print apes on the bag. I don't know. You can have an underwear line
right, but you can't
and
call it. I'm
and
assuming they
print
can't.
apes on the underwear, but that might not go over so well if they
Right.
realize how bad NFTs are for the environment.
Now, I'm not an IP. I'm not an IP expert, but I'm assuming like if you can do that though, you can't use the name Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? Because you don't own that.
I think, don't get too distracted by that.
Right.
The idea was that there were a lot of big NFT investors that got in very early to Bored Apes, and they signaled to other people that this was something and that was going to go up in value. So a bunch of people all rushed in and bought up the Bored Apes for I don't know, maybe $250 worth of Ethereum, and got in early and watched it go up in price. Now it's gone up 10 times in price, and there's a problem with that. You know, you can't keep saying number go up when it comes to NFTs, because these things then become very hard to sell. How do you keep the market at $200,000 worth of Ethereum, $250,000? That's very hard to do. How do you find buyers that are going to continually pay for more? You can't do that. They're not going to go up 10 times again. They're just not going to. What Yuga Labs has done is they've put a lot of money into let's start with NFTs inherently have no value, right? They're just like other crypto tokens where inherently there's no value. They don't really represent anything other than what you imagine they might be worth in the future, right? So Yuga Labs is now in this position where they have to continually convince people that these things have any value. So what they're doing is they're sort of, blindly promising utility for Bored Apes, that's going to get you into a party. You're going to belong to a special club. I mean, they're like the Church of Scientology, where they're getting these celebrities to go and talk about Bored Apes on television. But now there's this huge effort. They've got to keep convincing people that, hey, this stuff is somehow worth money. And they also run into the problems where there's no liquidity behind these. It's very difficult to find a one-to-one buyer. So what they then do is you create more NFTs, you airdrop them, so they give the holders other NFTs that they can then sell. And then ultimately what they have to do is create a fungible token that's going to somehow represent these Bored Ape NFTs, right?
Right.
And when you create the fungible token, then you bring liquidity into the space. Now you have a way for investors to come in, insiders to come in, and they're giving them actual money, and they're getting these tokens in return that they can, that immediately lists on Coinbase. Because, for example, Andreessen Horowitz, which is now led the recent investment of $450 million into Bored Apes. It has two directors on the board of Coinbase, the biggest crypto exchange in the U.S., and boom,
Right.
now you can get your money out of the project. And what is Apecoin worth? It's not worth anything. It's like every other token that came out. It's not really worth anything. It's all about the number going up. Now, of this Apecoin, there are 1 billion at the fixed supply, right? And there's about 131 million that are circulating now. If you look, 40% of that Apecoin is traded on Binance, right? An offshore exchange, and it's being traded against Tethers and BUSD, two stable coins with dubious backing, right?
Right.
So
Just print them up. Right.
You can see how it becomes very easy to manipulate the price of Apecoin. So that price might be set in offshore exchanges, but then that's the price it's going for on, say, Coinbase.
Do you think that was we got into Apecoin a little bit before earlier than I thought we would, but let's go with it because I think this is really interesting. Do you think the play once Bored Ape Yacht Club, the NFT project, blew up, do you think the play was immediately then in like their mind, Yuga Labs' mind, that we need to now segue into this fungible token so that we can because it seems like there's a even with the for Yuga Labs, there's a limit. They made their 10,000 Bored Apes. Now, obviously, they have they release other NFT projects that sort of siphon off of that idea, where they have like the mutant apes now, and I think there was like they got like the dogs that belong to the apes.
Right.
And
They
these
have
are all
other NFTs. So
right.
people that hold Bored Apes, they get perks. And one of those perks is, like these derivatives or free money in the forms of other NFT drops,
Right.
which were the Bored Ape Kennel Dog NFT, the Mutant Apes, I mean, so, and those they can then, flip over and sell on OpenSea for Ethereum.
Right. But then,
Yeah.
but I feel like do you think they viewed that as like a limited thing? Because again, we got 10,000 Bored Apes, and they only get once the original 10,000 sell out. Yeah, they get the royalties every time it sells, but that's just a percentage.
I think it's hard to get the game to keep the game going.
Right.
I think it's hard to. There's not a lot of liquidity in high value NFTs, right? But once you kind of pair that with Bored Ape, right? With a fungible token. When you pair a non-fungible token, a high value non-fungible token, with a fungible token like Apecoin, which is linked to a DAO, and now they have it with these games. Then you can sort of use that branding of Bored Apes to lift the value of this token, and then sell it to retailers, sell it to people who don't understand how this all works on exchanges.
Now, this is it's when they came out with the Apecoin, and then the DAO that comes with that. It was all so interesting to me because it really is like grift that funnels into grift that funnels. It's literally it's like a pyramid scheme of pyramid schemes.
Right.
It's so let's get into actually this was a major topic, and it came up how the ape coins were distributed. And let's get a little bit into that because we talk all the time about how
the Apecoin is an ERC20 token that lives on the Ethereum blockchain, and what happens when you release a token? Well, you want to make sure it doesn't look like a unregistered securities offering, right? And so the way that Yuga Labs has done with this, and they've worked with their lawyers, and they've worked with A16Z, the big Silicon Valley, Andreessen Horowitz, the big Silicon Valley venture capitalists, and they've put a lot of thought about this, and what they do is they try to come up with saying, okay, this coin is decentralized, right? Because what happened early on is the SEC kind of overlooked the Ethereum crowd sale and said at one point, well, Ether, the native token of Ethereum is so decentralized at this point, where it's not really a securities. So other token projects always seem to follow that and say, well, we're decentralized, or this token has utility, right? This isn't just a token. It's not a money. It's not a share of our company. It's a utility, and you can use it in a game. And Apecoin is also part of this DAO. So what they did was, and Yuga Labs sort of distanced itself from even the Apecoin by saying, well, we didn't launch this token. It was the Ape DAO. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and it's sort of like this idea of this entity that lives on a blockchain, and all decision making sort of happens on the blockchain. And the DAO then relates to a fungible token. In this case, it's the Apecoin.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I actually looked over this. I missed this part actually. So Yuga Labs is honestly taking the position that they are not related to Apecoin and the DAO.
Yeah.
That's
well, they don't have that. There are members of the DAO that sort of sit in the foundation because these things can never be completely centralized, right? So they have certain people in the DAO, and they all own apes, but Yuga Labs employees don't sit on the DAO. the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, the Ape DAO. And they say that the DAO launched the token. I wrote this comparison where it's like, it's like the ventriloquist and the dummy that sits on the lap, and Yuga Labs is doing the talking, but we're supposed to believe it's.
Like in so basically, how do they square up the fact that other than like the big VCs who got a nice little handful of the Apecoin tokens, how do they square the fact that the only people who got these Apecoin tokens, again, other than those bigwigs, were people who had to own Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs, run, of course, by Yuga Labs? Like,
what's the question? How do they
how do they square that?
They have a distribution of this coin, right? And a percentage goes to people that already hold Bored Ape NFTs. So what it was is they wanted to make sure that also that people who have Bored Ape NFTs hold them, because you don't want people selling them, because then they might find out, well, the secondary market doesn't exist. I can't, too many people sell them all at once. The price crashes because there's nobody there to buy them. And then, so, I mean, they seem to want to keep the price of the Bored Ape NFTs above $200,000 in Ethereum. Probably the sweet spot is 250,000, but they don't like it when it falls below 200,000. Anyhow, so some of these incentives, like a lot of, and I spoke with some of the people that hold the Bored Ape tokens, right, and they were holding out for this ape coin, So that's an incentive to get people to hold on to their Bored Apes, is this promise that you're going to have more free money dropping into your lap just by holding this. But I'll tell you that some of the people, some of the folks, some of the investors that bought Bored Apes really early for the early price, they flipped it and got out right away,
Right. Probably made $100,000 or more if they got in early,
Franksy bought like over 1,000 of them and then sold them all right away. So Pranksy was a well-known NFT investor, and he started buying up all these Bored Apes. People saw him buying out, they rushed in. So he'd buy them and then he sold them right away.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of like an equivalent scenario. Like if I don't know, if McDonald's sold a dangerous Happy Meal toy, and then to avoid lawsuits, they were just like, "Oh no, the toy just comes with the Happy Meal that we sell. We don't have anything to do with the toy."
So it's all kind of a game, but the thing you always want to keep in mind is that, and there's nothing new here. There's nothing new that hasn't happened in cryptocurrency in this whole space, since 2010 or whatever. There's always been tokens. People try to find a way to justify the value of these tokens. Some people get allotment of tokens early. The ones that get in early make the money. The ones that get stuck later on, when the price crashes, they kind of lose out, and they're stuck holding the bag.
Right.
So it's always that. It's always like, we're going to create a token. The token itself, whether it's an NFT or a fungible token, has no inherent value. If it's an NFT, it's just a pointer to something on the blockchain. I mean, elsewhere on the internet, on a website or somewhere that could easily move. It doesn't pass along copyright or anything like that unless it's expressly written out in a written contract. And fungible tokens, it's not like a share in a company that's making a product or offering a service where this is a company that's making profits. Yuga Labs is in the business of convincing you that these NFTs and these tokens have some sort of value that they absolutely do not. There's nothing, other than what people are willing to pay for them, right?
Right.
And if too many people sold Bored Apes too fast, if they didn't, then
I don't see how, that added, incentive maybe that you mentioned, where it sort of encourages people to hold on to the apes as to not sell. I don't see how that's not manipulation in some fashion. But have you heard from the common, again, we're talking about an NFT project where these apes sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So at this point, all these people who are in are somewhat have money of somewhat. But the regular Bored Ape holder, Did you come across anyone who had issues with how these ape coins were distributed? Because it seems like, this is supposed to be some sort of DAO where every because it's in a DAO part of it where it's a DAO, every coin gives someone a vote, and obviously if these tokens are distributed unevenly at the very beginning,
Right.
you're
So that's the
already
whole problem with
demeaning.
DAOs
Right.
to begin with, is it's kind of a joke because to have for so the DAO is a distributed autonomous organization, and they'll make decisions. The DAO will make decisions on certain things having to do with the Bored Ape Yacht Club project. I don't know what they're deciding now, but that's the idea. They make it's supposed to be democratic, and if you hold Apecoin, then you can have a vote, and the more Apecoin that you own, the more impactful your vote. You have a much larger influence on these decisions, right? So who owns all the Apecoin? Well, I mean, Yuga founders gave themselves like 80 million, if I remember the numbers right, 80 million ape coins. I mean, Yuga Labs, the company, has a bunch of ape coins. A huge distribution went out to the contributors of the project, which includes A16Z, So it's not really democratic at all. It's these big holders of ApeCoin that are going to be making all the decisions. So it's kind of meaningless.
Right. I mean, it feels like if these people just, if these Bored Ape holders just, I don't know, tallied the bananas, they would realize this is unfair to like what their idea is. I mean, but they're basically, they should know what they're getting themselves into at this point.
The whole idea is to make it sound like these coins are distributed. They're widely distributed, and they serve a purpose and a utility. So the DAO is part of the utility. The whole DAO is so that Yuga Labs can distance themselves from this token. So it's basically a way of them saying, hey, you can't sue us to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the other part of the utility is having these sort of games where ApeCoin plays a role in the games, like Benji Bananas. Benji Bananas is the game that their partner.
This is like brand new, and they didn't even make it, right? They basically bought out a company who already had a Benji Bananas game or something like that.
Yeah, Benji Bananas game, and they're going to incorporate ApeCoin in their play to earn game, and I don't know if people realize that these play to earn games are not really a good thing. A lot of the people in the game community don't like this at all, because games are supposed to be for entertainment purposes, and all of a sudden you monetize a game and people are playing to earn money on these. And sometimes it's in places of the world where individuals will see this as a job, and they start to try to earn money, and then what happens is these tokens are really volatile, and they can run into, have to borrow money, and it starts to get kind of messy. So
to me, when you start playing a game for real money, that's called gambling, and that has a whole set of regulations that need to be right. I mean, like. For real, I mean, this is just, it's unbelievable the way it's also kind of unbelievable how they are getting away with it. Like, I assume eventually somewhere down the road,
I think that's the thing that gets me and bothers a lot of people, is we saw this whole initial coin offering business in 2017, where all these companies were coming along and they were launching fungible tokens, ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, and creating these projects, and just with a white paper or some promise about something was going to happen in the future. And they were doing these initial coin offerings and raising like outrageous sums of money in a very short period of time. And I mean, it was outrageous, really. When the SEC stepped in and, they said, hey, if you're going to do this, you can expect, to get a Wells notice from us. In fact, there was the original DAO, decentralized, in 2016. I mean, that has crashed stupendously when it was hacked. And the SEC came out later with an investigative report, and they said that the governance, that the token for that DAO, the token that was used to make voting decisions, that it was an unlawful security, and it's like, why, I don't know what, I mean, the SEC just seems to move very slowly, with some of these tokens. It's discouraging, frankly.
No, I
Especially
completely...
so for people like me that have been in the space for a long time, that really thought maybe this nonsense was going to come to an end, and then to see that it's not only has it not come to an end, it's just sort of like,
grew to disgusting,
Yeah.
heights. That
Right.
So it's
And
really
so
unbelievable.
it's the NFTs. So the NFTs, the whole craze around the NFTs has just given birth to all these decentralized autonomous organizations, and they all got their governance tokens. It's also coming out with these people that are creating fractionalized. That are fractionalizing their NFTs by coming out with tokens that represent a high value NFTs, because once again, it's really hard to find a market. There's not a lot of liquidity in these high value NFTs. It's very hard to find a one-to-one buyer for
Right.
these. So at some point, fungible tokens play an important role, and that's when the investors come in, because Andreessen Horowitz isn't risking anything when they give Yuga Labs hundreds of millions of dollars and get Apecoin in return, because they just ultimately cash out on the Apecoin. But it's Yuga Labs and the founders of Yuga Labs that could get in trouble with the Security and Exchange Commission. I mean, but in some cases, what we see is these companies just move ahead with their token. I doubt Yuga even reached out to the SEC beforehand, and maybe they'll just pay a huge fine and that'll be it. But by
Right.
then,
They'll make their money.
A16Z is already cashed out. I mean, Mark Andreessen, look, in October, he bought a $177 million home on Malibu, so he's doing okay.
Oh yeah, they're more than okay, I would say. Right. The thing to me about the ape coin with the Bored Apes is that people got into the Bored Ape. If you got into the Bored Ape early, the Bored Ape NFTs early, maybe that's a few $100 you had on the line. Further down, it sort of restricts, I should say, who can actually buy in. And if you're buying a six-figure receipt to a cartoon ape,
nobody can buy in. Nobody can go. Who can buy a $200,000 Bored Ape, and that's the floor price? Nobody
right,
can.
Exactly. So if you do have that money to spend, you already come from money. So if they lose something, it's probably not a lot to them. If this all goes under,
And who's going to buy a $200,000 Bored Ape to go to a warehouse party?
Right. But then,
it's just.
But this is what makes the ape coin so much more nefarious to me, because it lowers that buy-in. So people who were cut out and didn't have money to lose on Bored Apes, who maybe that floor price actually saves them from being screwed over down the road. The ape coin doesn't have that. Like, the price is low enough where people who don't have money to lose, who buy into the hype, can really lose a lot, and their lives could be ruined if and when Apecoin flounders. Sure. And they've bought in.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it'll become like all these tokens become just sort of worthless at one point, but there's so much liquidity behind it with Coinbase. I don't know actually who's buying it. Like I said, actually 40% of it is being traded on Binance, so I don't know.
All right. I just saw the other day, Yuga Labs announced that they raised $450 million on a $4 billion valuation. Yeah. And the interesting thing to me was that was specifically, at least from the reports that I read, to build like a a Bored Ape version of the metaverse, and
Yeah.
that's so, because to me, like, Facebook's metaverse
Right.
is already just
Right.
like a bunch of marketing junk. There's nothing there, but well, there's something there. Like, they at least have the I guess it's the Meta Rift now, or whatever the hell
Mm.
their goggles are called, the the virtual reality headset, and they do have like software that they've built. There's something there, but we're being told now that it's like the most amazing of tech, like the tech mumbo jumbo bullshit, where it's like Yuga Labs is going to build this competitor, this alternative to that. Okay, what have they got? Nothing. There's nothing there, and they've got $450 million.
Yeah, so they're gonna get it big into games now, and something blah blah blah, metaverse, blah blah blah, Web3, right? Again, this is all about how do we justify the existence of this token that we're betting will make us rich.
Right.
You know, how do we get people to buy Apecoin? You know, a lot of that Apecoin, by the way, I said that there's a 1 billion in supply, and they've locked up a good portion of it, and they'll release it slowly into circulation over, I think, 48 months, right?
Right.
So there's 131 million in circulation right now.
Jeez. So, really quick, actually, you'd mentioned the games that they're going into, the NFT pay to earn games. Whenever I hear about pay to earn games, I always think of when I was first researching, I think Axie Infinity, and I found out that there were like you had mentioned that there are people in other countries and developing nations where they actually sort of play this as a job because it's a way to earn a little bit of money for some sort of a living, that a standard of living in that country. But then I was reading that like the entry fee to a game like Axie Infinity was you have to buy the NFT to actually
Right. The same with Benji Bananas. Benji Banana.
right. It's so
Benji
high.
Benji.
Right. Benji Bananas.
Benji Bananas, right?
But
I think it's a game where a monkey goes swinging vine to vine through the jungle collecting bananas. But you have to buy an NFT to get into the game. So you have to actually pay to get into the game to begin with. So you're already sinking money to get in there. And most people are probably going to do this because they need the money, or they think they can really make money off this. Right, it's not for the enjoyment of the game. I mean, it's really kind of
absolutely But then I was reading that there are whole like grifts going on, where in those developing nations and people can't afford that entry fee via the NFT, they apply for a scholarship.
They go into debt.
Take out a student loan.
It's not funny. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I mean, it is. It's one of those things where you laugh because it's so sad. Like it's so demented. And here's the thing though, to pay back the loan and plus interest, these people who get the scholarship sort of go into like this in-game indentured servitude where every time they earn something, a percentage of that goes to the person who gave them the scholarship. So it's like this like predatory loan
terrible.
to play a game. To play a game.
So this is what they're promoting.
Right.
This is what Yuga Labs is about, and people don't understand that. They see the monkeys and the apes and the cute cartoons and that sort of thing, and you just dig a little bit deeper, and you kind of understand that this is about a balloon and filling it with a hot air and trying to convince people that NFTs have money and these tokens are worth something, so certain individuals can get rich, but at the end of the day there's a lot of people who end up getting hurt with these kind of schemes.
Right.
And I think that's the part that's most upsetting, is that very often these coins end up worthless, but by then I have no doubt that at some point Apecoin is just not going to be worth anything. Either that or that they won't have any liquidity because nobody's going to be able to list it because at some point the regulator's going to step in and say, hey, you can't do this. And there are a lot of people that are going to be left holding the bag. And maybe, sadly, that's often when the Security and Exchange Commission does step in, is when people get hurt.
Right.
But if they had taken stronger action before all this, maybe they could have done something to prevent it. But don't see that happening.
Right. I mean, you already see people in various ways, from Bored Ape specifically, get hurt because they're such a high valued NFT token. They're targeted for so many of these like hacks. And you're constantly, I feel like you constantly see on Twitter, at the very least, people going like, my apes were stolen. Someone stole my apes.
My apes are gone.
My apes are gone. It's
my
like,
apes
what?
are gone.
And
I think
some
there
people
was one,
say how they
person, even in the collecting, somebody did some kind of scheme where they were able to borrow somebody's apes and then collect just long enough to collect their ape coin. And, there were a lot of people. Apecoin, that launched on March 17th, and the very same day, all these exchanges were listing Apecoin. So they got, did they reach out to FinHub or anything, or see if maybe this would be okay? I don't know.
That's not a usual thing either, for a brand new coin like that, a brand new token to be listed across
that
all
quickly.
those exchanges.
That
was
really strange.
Yeah.
But it tells you something about what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, there is, Coinbase doesn't have to register with the SEC as a broker-dealer or a like a stock exchange would, or it doesn't have any registrations with the SEC. So they don't have clear boundaries on, the rules aren't as clear between, Coinbase has its own venture arm. We don't always know that the coins that they've invested in, or sometimes the coins that they're listing on their site. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that really shouldn't be going on,
Right. Yeah. Now, another thing I should say, we've already been through more than one thing that's been controversial with these Bored Ape Yacht Club guys. And that's the one I want to talk about now, though, is the whole brouhaha that happened when BuzzFeed News dared to look at public.
Oh, that was a shame.
Yeah, the public records for the
that was really upsetting,
Yuga Labs
right?
business.
So the Bored Apes founders were going under pseudonyms, Gordon Goner, and I can't remember the others.
The other one was Gargamel, because I know from the Smurfs, right? Gargamel, because of the Smurfs.
Gargamel,
right.
Gordon Goner, right? Those are the two main founders, and they didn't reveal their real names. And people were wondering, who are these people behind this Bored Apes project? Because they're making a lot of money, and now we're hearing that they're in talks with Andreessen Horowitz to get a lot of funding. What's going on? Who are these people? And so BuzzFeed, the BuzzFeed reporter, Katie, how do you say your last name?
Oh,
Katie.
Natopolis, something. Katie.
Natopolis.
Yeah, something. She has a very, yeah.
But yeah, so this woman and BuzzFeed went and they looked at public records and found out the names of the founders, and they wrote about it in BuzzFeed. And then there was this backlash because the founders said, "Oh, you've doxed us," and that was really an interesting term to use because they weren't doxed. I mean, their names were in public documents. It wasn't that hard to find out who they were, and they really had a responsibility to let the public know who they were anyway.
Right.
But what happened is the way they reacted to it is that it brought a lot of, it was very aggressive. It directed a lot of hate and harassment towards this female reporter. And I found that really disturbing. It said a lot about who the founders of Yuga are.
Right.
I found that really disturbing.
Yes,
They should
the use
have
of the term.
They should have said, "Hey, it's no big deal." First of all, they should have let the public know who they were from the get-go. I mean, it was just absurd. And secondly, once that happened, they should have stepped up and said, "Hey, yeah, no big deal. Good on her for finding out who we are." But instead, they were very aggressive. They made it into this big deal. They went on saying that they were doxxed, and they directed a lot of aggression towards this woman, which was absolutely, it was disgusting.
Yes,
Absolutely disgusting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you see that interview? I forget. It was with some like overly pro crypto advocate outlet, where the Yuga Labs CEO Nicole Muniz was like, she was acting like the reveal of the Bored Apes founders' identities was
Yeah, well,
something.
she was playing into it too.
Yeah,
You
and it
know,
was.
I don't know if she's just been brainwashed or she's bought into it as well, but she was just, she was playing it up too and going on. I mean, for God's sake, their names have already come out, let it go and move on. And
Right, but
instead, they just sort of kept going with this, and I just, it was repulsive, really.
it was the whole thing was like, oh, but they're families. It's like, are you kidding me?
No,
These are,
that's
yeah, that's
just a
not how it
bunch of,
works. Yeah,
it was absolutely ridiculous.
but I think it says
It was,
it's
it was disgusting. I don't know.
right.
It's
I think it says
deplorable.
I think it says a lot about
Who
the
does that?
space. Right. I think it says a lot about the space though. Like I'm not just bringing it up because to pile on this very specific case, but the whole like NFT crypto community online was sort of like rallying for them too, as if there's some sort of like the whole thing about crypto is supposed to be, according to these guys, that this is gonna take over everything in the future of these companies are supposed to be taking over every industry. Crypto fixes that, crypto fixes this, but you don't want us to know who the people pulling the strings are, but they're going to be controlling everything. It's very
Yeah.
it's a very
Well, their names were going to
bizarre.
come out eventually, and they were on what was the big deal?
Right,
I
right.
mean, really, if they would act like grown-ups, then
Yeah. So let's get to the celebrity thing. We mentioned it earlier that there's like this clip went viral a couple of months ago where Paris Hilton went on
Jimmy
the
Fallon and
Jimmy.
Paris Hilton were
Yeah.
shilling their Bored Apes. Well, you have to understand that there are a lot of links between the entertainment industry and NFTs and crypto, and there's a lot of money being invested in different companies. So, nobody should be too surprised that celebrities are buying NFTs,
Yeah, but
Um,
if there was, I forgot who. I think it was this
and they're great
writer.
promoters, like I said, Church of Scientology, they tapped into celebrities too. They're great promoters. They have money, so they'll buy an ape coin or somebody helps them buy them. And you don't have to worry about them turning around and selling it. So
Right.
I'm sure that Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton just doing part of what they thought their job was, promoting these Bored Apes. But Jimmy Fallon, I mean, Jimmy, can't you just kind of dig a little bit more below the surface and kind of get a understanding the bigger picture of what's happening here?
Right.
I
I mean,
mean,
I don't know if they care. I don't, because there was a reporter, a
they
writer,
don't care enough.
right, Max Reed. He basically drew a line from, because he basically drew a line from all these celebrities to this big Hollywood agency, talent agency, create CAA, the creative
CAA,
artists. Yeah.
and they've invested in OpenSea, which is the biggest platform for trading NFTs, right?
Right, right, exactly. Like it's this big, I don't know, like sort of self-filleting circle of people who are just
Self-fulfilling.
getting money from this, and like it's it's
Yeah.
so bizarre. Like, and they're it's and Reese Witherspoon.
I think
That's
that
one
the scary
celebrity.
thing right now, Matt, is the amount of money that's being funneled into this whole space. And you just see it every day. I mean, the amount of money that's going into Web3 and the metaverse and this, you know, what metaverse, what software, what is it? Am I going to dress like a Bored Ape and in my second life, I'm going to go to the bank and deposit a check? I mean, honestly, how's
Right,
that going to work?
right.
I mean,
Right. Yeah, it's it's really like a dystopian sort of landscape when you got these celebrities pushing this stuff. And as I was gonna say, Reese Witherspoon is married to like one of the head agents at CAA. If you're
right.
wondering why she's been pushing NFTs so hard, one thing I thought was really interesting was when Paris Hilton was on the Jimmy Fallon show, and she mentioned how like her team took her Bored Ape and gave it like a visual where when you took its hat off, they put blonde hair on the ape and it
Yeah.
flowed down when they took the hat off. And then a couple days later, Gwyneth Paltrow posts a GIF of her Bored Ape doing the same thing. The hat comes off, the hair.
Yeah,
It's like the
I
same
think that the
team.
big question is who's, are they buying these very expensive NFTs on their own? Is somebody encouraging or influencing them to buying, or is somebody gifting to them? Are they promoting something without disclosing what's going on behind the scenes, or
Right.
what they're getting in return, or what's going on here? Because this just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense, does it, Matt? Why
Right.
why would Jimmy Fallon want to buy an NFT? Why would Gwyneth Paltrow even be interested in this stuff?
And
But they become wonderful promoters for it. I mean, they're
And there's not much regulation like we've been talking about on this space specifically, but there are rules about how celebrities or even online influencers can promote stuff and how they have to disclose, and that counts for anything. And this should technically be included in all that. So if they're getting paid and presenting this as like, I just bought this Bored Ape on my own when it was really paid for and sent to them by a company wanting to promote this, that's
right.
violating those rules.
Right. So I don't think that the public maybe doesn't have the full story on what's going on here.
Right. You heard about the Justin Bieber one where basically his a partner of a partner of his in like their fashion business sent him money to buy a Bored Ape.
Send him money the
Yeah.
money wasn't coming from him. So it's just not clear what the money trail is or who's really buying some of these NFTs and why they are promoting them.
Right. So where do you think this is all headed? Do you think? I mean, you mentioned earlier that you think eventually, like the SEC will catch up.
There's a lot of money in the space. There are VCs that are paying for these NFT platforms. They're putting money into these NFT platforms. NFTs are traded. Consensus, that's linked to Ethereum, the company that makes software that Ethereum runs on, and MetaMask, the wallet. They just got a huge round of funding too. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars that's being sunk into some of these, this whole industry right now. And the goal is for the investors to, kind of prop up the value or the value of these tokens so that they can cash out. If you're a venture capitalist, right? The old way of doing things is you put money into a startup company and then you wait for a liquidity event where the company's bought up or it goes through an IPO or whatever. And that can take a long time to happen. You don't see a return on your investment sometimes for years. Sometimes you don't have any return on your investment, right? And when you invest in a company and you get tokens in return, like Apecoin, that's a sure bet. You get those tokens listed on exchange. I mean, that's instant liquidity. You just go and dump all your coins on, no retailers, even though the product may have never even materialized. It's still existing in a concept, I mean, and I think right now Yuga Labs has all this money and it's just going to be a juggling game to keep creating some utility. One day, now one day it's like, it's a key to culture. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Right.
Even it's a key to commerce. It's going to get you into warehouse parties in Brooklyn. Well, you know what? People who had NFTs, it didn't even work for that. That didn't even get them into the warehouse party. They were just wearing wristbands, right?
Is that true? Oh,
so
right.
NFTs, they don't do anything that they've been promised to do. They don't safeguard your work as an artist. You don't make a lot of money on them. They don't get you into parties. They don't do anything. These tokens have no value. But the game here is to keep the illusion going, and that's why Yuga's got all this money so they can create games or whatever. And sort of keep it going until the ape coins are unlocked and these investors can then cash out. And then what happens? I don't know.
Right. I love that. I totally forgot about the Brooklyn party where they basically people even snuck in because they just got their hands on those bracelets. They weren't holding Bored Ape NFTs.
Sure. So
Yeah.
that was one of the perks was the parties. And they had actually, Yuga Labs did a big party on a yacht club, and they did a big party at a warehouse in Brooklyn. They had, Beck and little baby, and I forget who else was there, comedians and big time entertainers, and free drinks. And that's
No,
what you get for a $250,000, and that's the floor price
right.
of that's the cheapest Bored Ape you can buy.
Jeez. What a world. What a world. Amy
What a
Castor.
world.
Yeah. Amy Castor, independent writer on NFTs and crypto, ape expert, if I may add.
Mhm.
Where can people find you online? Take a minute to let
Also, I'm
any.
on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website, amycastor.com. I have a Patreon account, if you want to subscribe for the price of a cup of coffee, or hey, premium coffee beans, whatever you want to support the work. We appreciate it.
What do you got? Do
We
you got?
appreciate it. I'm saying there's other crypto skeptic. Me and my dogs appreciate it.
What do you got? Any interesting thing in the works? Some report on something that we should know about? Any ape
Uh,
uncovering or anything like that? Any?
I'm just trying to put the whole NFT story together right now. And over the past week or so, I've been looking at the history of NFTs. So I'm a little, and the more you look back, the more you realize nothing has changed.
Right. Yeah. I still feel like I still feel like it's more than just right place at the right time for Bored Apes. I still feel like it just something in my gut
Sure,
tells me
it's
just
like it's
not
it's sort of
organic
like all
to
these
me.
all these tokens, Matt. They're sort of like Ponzi schemes. It's sort of like there's no value there. They're not producing anything. It's about the people that get out soon, and who's left holding the bag, and there's just money coming in, and that money coming in goes to pay investors who are cashing out, but there's nothing else that's there.
Right.
And eventually it just sort of runs out of steam.
Right. Thanks for joining me, Amy. It was
Well,
great.
thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope you'll join me again soon on a future episode. There's a lot to discuss in
Absolutely.
this world. Yeah. Take care.
All right. Have a nice evening.
That monkey business, huh? Well, that wraps things up for this episode of Scam Economy. But before I let you go, before I jump into the various different places where you can find this show online and support this show online, I wanted to read a review that I got on Apple Podcasts. Now, I ask you guys to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify all the time, and that's great. And I encourage you to leave a review that matches how you really feel. I would like a 5-star review, but if you think it's a 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star show, then that's you. Your opinion is your opinion. That's cool. But the first bad review we received, and it's still a 3-star review, so even someone who's upset with me, still a crypto advocate, I should add, a crypto fan who's upset with me, still couldn't bear to give me less than a 3 stars. So I'll take that as a win. But again, that's not the part that I'm bringing this. That's not the reason why I'm bringing this up. Compelling but lacking, it says. That's your call. That's cool. Not cool, but that's your call. As someone who listens to this show for counterpoints to my beliefs, I would genuinely like to hear stronger arguments. To each its own, yes. Most episodes contain more boogeyman fear-mongering than researched theses. All right, I disagree that too, but okay. But now here's where this is why I'm bringing it up. Some smart conversations with the opposition would go a long way. I will continue listening and hope the show starts to sway me. Well, I appreciate you continuing to listen, and I hope the show does start to sway you. But some smart conversations with the opposition would go a long way. Now, maybe this is my fault because I have a history of being not so good at promoting or marketing my projects, my podcasts, my YouTube channel, whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm not very good at getting in front of people's eyes. I would never be a good crypto promoter or NFT shill because it would, frankly, promotion of anything sort of makes me feel kind of dirty. So, that's maybe on me, but I think you may be missing out on the Scam Economy post show, the live on YouTube, right after this show premieres on YouTube and right after the podcast goes up, that first hour on Thursday nights. Well, maybe we'll do it other nights too if people need other nights. Maybe I can do this more. But right now, right after the podcast and YouTube premiere on Thursday nights, I go live on YouTube and I take calls from anybody. In fact, on every single episode, and this is now episode 8, so on 7 post-show episodes so far, we've had at least one pro-crypto caller, crypto advocate, whether it be an NFT artist, an artist who sold NFTs, I should say. We've had Bitcoin maxis call in. We've had someone who claims that they've made millions of dollars in crypto, but they didn't sell, so now they've only made a couple $100,000 in crypto. And that's just a few people I can remember off the top of my head. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't think of any other show that does this. I haven't found any other crypto show, whether it's Web3, cryptocurrency, NFTs, that does what I'm doing on that post show. Maybe there's a Bitcoin show or a crypto podcast that has had an interview with one crypto critic. I haven't come across it, but maybe it's out there. I can't claim to have seen everything, but I don't know of any cryptocurrency show, pro crypto show, I should add, that has a phone line via Skype, basically a way for anyone to call in and interact with the host and debate them or try to convince them on crypto. Maybe it's because I'm really bad at marketing, and maybe Scam Economy post show doesn't do it. Does the service? Maybe that's not a sexy name. So I thought about this, and a few post shows ago, we just happened to fall into an episode where caller after caller was telling me about the various crypto dating scams that were trying to, target them. So maybe really what the post show should be called is like the Scam Economy Crypto Hotline. So folks, after I mentioned the Patreon page at patreon.com/MattBinder, where you can financially support this show and help me create more and more content, that's the biggest help, number one. Or after I tell you about how you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, just go to scameconomy.com for all the links. And after I tell you about how you can follow me on Twitter at Matt Binder, and after I tell you how, thanks to Twitter user at Orwellian, I now have access to the at Scam Economy Twitter account as well, and you can follow the show itself at Scam Economy on Twitter. And after I tell you how you should go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave a review, maybe to help balance out the review that I'm talking about on this show. And next show, I'll probably read some positive reviews, because that's what they mostly are. But, I guess that's how you get my attention, right? After I tell you all of that, I'm going to tell you to join me live on YouTube. And also I stream the same show. I multicast on Twitch at twitch.tv/MattBinder2. And by the way, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give me the free Twitch Prime subscription that Amazon gifts you with your Prime subscription every month. At no extra cost to you. You're basically diving into Jeff Bezos's pants. Sorry about that. Pulling out some pocket change and tossing it over to me. Again, no cost to you, except I guess diving into Jeff Bezos's pockets. But that's just an analogy. You're not really doing that, unless I don't know. But anyway, after I tell you about all that, I'm gonna tell you to join me and watch the Scam Economy Crypto Hotline right now at youtube.com/MattBinder. You can call in. I will drop the Skype username and all that fun information for how you can interact with me. You can leave super chats too, which I'll get to if you're watching that live stream live. Right here on YouTube if you're watching, obviously. If you're listening to the podcast, it's not right here. But anyway, right now, if you're watching live, or you can catch the replay afterwards. Yeah. Scam Economy Crypto Hotline coming up for you live right now. Everyone who's listening to the podcast or not watching this live, hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time on the Scam Economy.